Imagine being 5 years old, stepping off your kindergarten school bus, walking through your front door, and finding your mother dead on the floor of her bedroom. That image never left Eric Waldman, and for 52 years, neither did the questions. For over half a century, a family in Oceanside, California, has been a part of the community. New York lived with a hole in their hearts and a cloud of suspicion hanging over their father's name. Detectives came and went. Technology fell short. The trail went cold. They told us it couldn't be solved. They were wrong. 2026 has become the year the unsolvable became solved. From the confession of a notorious serial killer to microscopic DNA evidence that traveled across 5 decades to find its owner, the archives are being reopened. Today on Criminal Minds Archives, we are counting down 4 landmark cold case resolutions from this year, cases that have shaken the true crime world to its core. Before we dive into our first investigation, a case that sat in silence for 52 years, I want to ask you something. If your family spent decades living under the suspicion that your father was a killer, could any answer ever fully erase that stigma? Let us know in the comments. We've saved the most shocking multi-victim breakthrough for the very end of this video. A case that paralyzed the state of Virginia for 3 years, involved at least 8 victims, and whose prime suspect passed a polygraph test and walked free until DNA finally caught him, decades after his death. You won't want to miss it. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The archives are open. On the morning of January 11, 1974, Barbara Waldman was found murdered in her Oceanside, California New York home. The 31-year-old woman lived with her husband, a dentist, and 3 young children in a colonial-style home on Sally Lane in Oceanside, a hamlet on Long Island. Waldman, a New York University graduate, was discovered on the 2nd floor of the family home by her son Eric, just after he got off the kindergarten school bus. He was 5 years old. She was found face down in her bedroom, her hands bound behind her back, with her stockings wrapped around her neck. She had been shot in the head and strangled. In the days and weeks following the murder, Nassau County detectives worked tirelessly to track down leads. Investigators collected fingerprints from the crime scene. Witnesses reported seeing a man fleeing the area, and police developed a detailed sketch of a potential suspect, a sketch that was later described as an almost perfect match to the killer. But in 1974, the science needed to solve the case simply did not exist. DNA testing would not become a standard forensic tool until the late 1980s and 1990s. In the absence of a clear intruder, the suspicion fell on the person closest to the victim, her husband, Gerald Waldman. He was never charged, but the whispers followed him for the rest of his life. As children, we heard many times that people were suspicious of my father and that he may have had something to do with my mom's murder, his daughter Marla later said. This powerful social mark of disgrace was heavy and hurtful to our family. My dad, being who he was, had to be strong for his children, never ran from rumors. He continued to work, live, raise his family, and become a well-loved member of the Oceanside community. Gerald Waldman went to his grave in 2006 without ever knowing the full truth. In 2024, investigators teamed with Othram, a specialized laboratory headquartered in the Woodlands, Texas, to leverage its identity inference process, which enables investigators to identify individuals from DNA evidence even when there is no known reference sample to compare against. Officials from the Nassau County Police Department, the Nassau County District Attorney's Office, and the Nassau County Office of the Medical Examiner worked together to submit forensic evidence to Othram's laboratory. Scientists used forensic-grade genome sequencing to build a comprehensive DNA profile for the suspect. That profile was then delivered to the FBI's forensic genetic genealogy team. In August 2024, a light DNA match came back, one that set detectives down a trail. It took more testing, more investigation, and more verification. But the science held. Investigative genetic genealogy, a technique that combines DNA evidence with public genealogy databases, helped identify the suspect as Thomas Generazio of Oceanside. Generazio had been a local sanitation worker. He had 2 prior arrests for assault and possession of stolen property, but because those arrests occurred before DNA was routinely collected, There was no sample of him in any system. He slipped through the investigative cracks. He lived fewer than 4 miles from the Waldman home and had worked in the neighborhood as a sanitation man. It's possible he had even been the Waldman family's garbage collector at some point. Generazio died of cancer 22 years ago at the age of 57. His family cooperated with the investigation. In March 2026, Nassau County Police publicly announced that the decades-old mystery had finally been solved. The news conference brought a mixture of relief and heartbreak. Happily today, 52 years later, I get to say to the world that our father Jerry Waldman is exonerated. He was a victim and not a villain, Marla Waldman said. Her brother Eric, now 57, the same little boy who found his mother that January morning, was more measured. I've had the image of my mom in my head since I'm 5. It won't go away until I die. Does a resolution like this bring peace? Or does the fact that the killer died free make it feel like justice was cheated? Drop a piece or cheated in the comments. If case number 4 taught us that DNA can wait 50 years, our next case proves that a predator can never truly outrun his own biology. We're crossing the Atlantic to Leeds, England, where a 1977 nightmare finally reached a courtroom in March of 2026. Before we get into the details, let's talk about the basics. How much do you think a person's face changes in nearly 50 years? Could you pick a monster out of a crowd at 4 decades later? In the autumn of 1977, the city of Leeds was gripped by fear. The Yorkshire Ripper. Peter Sutcliffe was dominating headlines, but another predator was also moving through the student districts that fall, and he left almost no trace. On the night of October 2nd, 1977, a young woman had just arrived in Leeds for her first night at university. She had been driven up from her home in the south of England by her parents and settled into her student halls. She had gone to bed at 11 p.m. She was woken abruptly at around 3 a.m. by the sound of her bedroom window being smashed. An intruder climbed through, wearing a ski mask, and raped her before fleeing through the front door. The offense was reported and investigated at the time, but no suspect was identified. Swabs were taken, evidence was preserved, and then the case went cold. For 48 years, the survivor, who cannot be named for legal reasons, carried this with her. West Yorkshire Police's Major Investigation Review Team reopened the investigation as part of a cold case review in 2023, examining any potential forensic opportunities. This wasn't a new tip or a witness coming forward. It was a deliberate, systematic review of preserved evidence. Due to advancements in forensics, DNA was extracted from the decades-old swabs in 2023. No exact match was found in the database, but it was partially matched to one male. However, he was not old enough in 1977 to have committed the crime. So officers pursued DNA samples from his relatives. Further inquiries led to a match with one of that man's relatives. A sample taken from David Sharp proved he was the culprit. Officers confirmed Sharp was living in Leeds at the time of the offense. He is now of Copeland Meadows, Totnes, Devon. David Sharp, 66, was found guilty on March 13, 2026 of rape and sexual assault after a trial at Leeds Crown Court. He had been just 17 years old at the time of the attack. He maintained his innocence throughout. And when asked how he would account for his DNA being found on the victim, he told the jury, "I can't account for it." Sharp has been remanded in custody and is due to be sentenced on April 23, 2026. The detective who led the investigation put it simply, "No prison sentence can make up for the life term of trauma that the victim has been subjected to. But I hope that she feels that some form of justice has now been served." A reminder to every predator: the evidence is patient. But what happens when the killer is already behind bars? What happens when a man who has already taken dozens of lives decides, in the final chapter of his years, to finally clear his conscience? Alys Eberhardt was an 18-year-old nursing student. She was brutally murdered in her Fair Lawn home on September 24, 1965. She was found with stab wounds, bludgeoned to death. For nearly 6 decades, no one was charged. Her parents never got an answer. The file sat in a drawer. In 2021, a former classmate of Eberhardt's called Fair Lawn Police Detective Brian Ripkema and asked him to start looking into it again. The case was reopened that spring. The breakthrough didn't come from a lab. It came from a prison. Richard Cottingham, the infamous torso killer, had started making local headlines for confessing to a series of long unsolved murders. In conversations with Fair Lawn Police, he claimed to have murdered at least 80 people. Detectives Ripkema and Alys visited Cottingham in prison more than 5 times. During their visits, they brought up Eberhardt. Just little ways he reacted to questions, things of that nature. We were like, "This is definitely our guy," one detective said. One specific question left him with zero doubt. I asked him about how he entered the house, and he corrected me and told me the perpetrator did it a different way. Investigators reopened the cold case in 2021 and, through countless interviews over several years, extracted a full confession from Cottingham, including details that were never publicly known. The full confession was recorded on video on December 22, 2025. Fair Lawn Police Chief Joseph DeWicki said Cottingham will not face additional charges, and the department has officially closed the case. Cottingham, 79, has been in prison since his arrest in 1980 and is serving 3 life sentences at Southwood State Prison in Bridgeton, New Jersey. He has claimed responsibility for up to 100 homicides going back to the 1960s, though authorities in New York and New Jersey have officially linked him to about a dozen. For Alys Eberhardt's family, the closure was profound. "Our family has waited since 1965 for the truth," said her nephew Michael Smith. "To receive this news during the holidays and to be able to tell my mother, Alys's sister, that we finally have answers was a moment I never thought would come." Do you believe a serial killer's confession, with no new physical evidence, is enough for true closure? Or do we need forensic proof to fully close the book? Let us know in the comments. We've seen the power of a preserved DNA swab and chill of a serial killer's confession. But our final case, the #1 spot on the 2026 archive, is different. This wasn't one murder, it was a reign of terror. A series of killings so clean, so calculated that for nearly 40 years, investigators didn't even have a name. For years, the leading theories about this killer were that he was either a rogue law enforcement officer, or a serial killer, or a hunter who knew these remote areas too well. Before we reveal who it actually was, type officer or hunter in the comments. The killings on October 12, 1986, were the first of what became known as the Colonial Parkway murders. The slayings of 4 young couples, 8 homicides in total, over 3 years in the late 1980s. The Colonial Parkway is a scenic 23-mile road in Virginia linking Jamestown, Williamsburg, and Yorktown. At least 8 people. All young couples were murdered or went missing in or around their cars with no apparent motive and no suspect for many years. The crimes stumped police because there was almost no forensic evidence, and the crime scenes were remote. The FBI and Virginia State Police were baffled. The killer left no fingerprints, no witnesses. Just a signature of silence. And bodies found in Lover's Lane spots along a stretch of historic highway. The first victims were Kathleen Marion Kathy Thomas, 27, a United States Naval Academy graduate, and Rebecca Ann Becky Dowski, 21, a College of William and Mary senior. They were last seen together on October 9, 1986, at a computer lab on campus. For decades, one name kept surfacing in the investigation: Alan Wade Wilmer Sr., a local Lancaster County fisherman and avid hunter who had once confronted couples on the Parkway. He had been described as suspect #1 in 2 of the canonical murders, but was freed after passing an FBI polygraph test. Wilmer lived in Lancaster County and spent most of his time fishing and hunting, often docked at marinas in Gloucester and Middlesex counties. He was never convicted of any crime. He died in December 2017 at the age of 63, taking any potential confession to the grave. But his DNA did not die with him. After his death, investigators obtained Wilmer's DNA from items in his home. New genetic genealogy methods re-examined old evidence. In January 2024, authorities announced that Alan Wade Wilmer Sr. had been positively linked to the 1987 double murder of David Knobling and Robin Edwards, as well as the 1989 murder of Teresa Lynn Spa Howell. On January 20th, 2026, the FBI Norfolk Field Office announced that they had linked Wilmer to 2 more homicides, the murders of Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Dowski. Through persistent investigation and breakthroughs in forensic technology, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia stated that, had Wilmer been alive, the evidence would have supported federal prosecution. Authorities confirmed Wilmer was responsible for at least 6 of the Colonial Parkway murders. The victim's brother, Bill Thomas, attended the announcement and immediately called for justice beyond the case. Right now, the way the laws are set up, even though Alan Wade Wilmer Sr. is a serial killer and has killed at least 6 people, including my sister and her girlfriend Rebecca Dowski, we do not have the capability to upload his DNA into CODIS because he was never convicted of a crime before he died in 2017. Family members of Keith Call, one of the still officially unresolved cases, have also been told Wilmer is connected to that disappearance as well. The FBI has said it will continue to actively pursue the remaining unsolved cases. The Phantom finally has a face and a name. 4 cases, crimes spanning from 1965 to 1989, over 200 years of collective waiting. 2026 has proven that time is no longer a reliable shield for the guilty. Whether it's a sanitation worker from Oceanside who lived 3 miles from the woman he murdered, a 17-year-old from Leeds who spent nearly 50 years in Devon believing he'd gotten away with it, a serial killer lying in a prison cell waiting to be asked the right question, or a waterman who passed a polygraph test and outlived the investigation. The evidence waited. The science caught up. The truth in these cases is this: the archive is never truly closed. Right now, as you watch this, there are forensic technicians working on cases from the 1940s and 1950s. The same next-generation sequencing and genealogical DNA tools that cracked the Colonial Parkway murders are being used to solve the case distributed to law enforcement agencies across the country. If you want to be the first to know when the next unsolvable case breaks open, you need to be part of this community. Hit subscribe and click the bell icon. We are tracking more major DNA developments expected later this year, and you'll hear them here first on Criminal Minds Archives. Before you go, think about Thomas Generazio. He lived for 30 years after Barbara Waldman's murder as a neighbor. A familiar face, a man people passed on the street. Does it change how you think about the people around you? Let's discuss in the comments. Until next time, keep searching for the truth. The archives are always open.